if you didn't see this, and possibly not, the Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers says he wants to play in 2025. Now, I assume that means football. We'll assume the position he wants to play football. He said, when asked about it, he said, a full-throated, I think so, yeah, is what he said. Now, Rodgers is less than 3 weeks away from birthday number 41. You always remember 41 unless you don't, because you don't remember 41 because it's not a round number. You remember 40. You might remember 45. You definitely remember 50, but you don't really remember 41 because it's in between 40 and 45, and those numbers are more important than 41. All right, so let us discuss the question for the esteemed panel, which you are a part of. Aaron Rodgers planning to play in 2025. Should the Jets want him back in 2025? He says he's going to play, but that doesn't mean he's going to play for the Jets. Should the Jets want him back? So I've got Big Red, Cyst, and Seaweed. 3 things that have never been combined together, but we're going to throw them together, and we are going to make mincemeat is what we're going to make. So, the arrow on this one, after a minutes-long Maller deliberation, the arrow on this one is pointing towards N-O. No. Does someone, anyone who's in the ownership class, the aristocrat class for the Jets, does anyone have the balls to pull the trigger and say, you know what, this just didn't work out. It's not you, it's us, and goodbye, and we'll give you some Jets merch on the way out. That's it. Rodgers, a legend of the game, we are told by everyone, right? All the stats and all that. But that was all done at Lambeau Field, not in the swamplands of New Jersey. And if you merely judge him by the performance that he has had as a Jet, it's not pretty, right? He hasn't been able to sing for his supper. He's tried to sing. The notes haven't been there. So he's tried to sing for his supper. Now, Big Red, Andy Reid likes to say that film don't lie. And Rodgers has been a large pus-filled cyst on the side of the Jets franchise since he started playing here. He is having the worst statistical season of his career. How bad is it? Rodgers is not a top 10 quarterback. He's not even a top 20 quarterback. He's 23rd in quarterback rating and barely ahead of Patriot rookie Drake May. Who goofed? I've got to know. And I can give you numbers up the wazoo if you want. Right? I can give you numbers up the wazoo. But meanwhile, if you look into the crystal ball, if Rodgers doesn't return to the Jets, if he moves on after one season hurt and then one season where he played with all of his buddies that he handpicked coming to the Jets. So where does he go after that? Where does Rodgers end up? So I took out the old crystal ball to analyze the crystal ball. And now the Jets, we can all agree here, they need to cut the cord. And then Rodgers can go somewhere else. He's free to roam around the country. Now, the crystal ball, which is never wrong, bought it on Temu, never wrong. The crystal ball, never wrong. So the logical spot, according to the crystal ball, is it's showing cowboy boots and country music, Nashville in 2025. Right? Would that not be like, look, the Titans don't have a quarterback. Rodgers owns property in that area. Not that they're a good team, they're not, but the Titans are about where the Jets are. Without the hype, right? They're not the mediocre team. The Jets are a mediocre team. So that's the one right there. That's it. Rodgers slide on down and do some country dance routine in Nashville. Go hang out at the Grand Ole Opry. Have a fine time. Now, page 2. We move on to the quarterback shuffle in the NFL. And how about this one? Can you explain the news out of Indy as the Colts, who told everyone a couple weeks ago that Joe Flacco is our quarterback for the rest of the year. Joe effing Flacco. Joe Flacco. That's our guy. We love Joe. We love Joe. They were singing. Well, can you explain why the Colts have decided now to bench Joe Flacco in favor of the former starter, Anthony Richardson, the guy that quit, took himself out of the game against the Texans? And yeah. All right, so looking at this one from all angles, from all sides here, It's actually not that deep. It's pretty straightforward. That if you look at the way the Colts franchise is being run, the Colts here are at the mercy of the seaweed. You say, well, there's no seaweed in Indianapolis. What are you talking about? Every key indicator on this story, every one of them points to a meddling owner named Jim Irsay. We said originally when you can go back and check the archive here in a previous episode of the show, we talked about Anthony Richardson being benched. It's like this had the fingerprints of the owner, Jim Irsay, all over it. And Irsay is like seaweed floating in the water, wherever the water takes it, right? He's just kind of floating around, whatever. He wakes up one day, depending on what baggie he grabs, he thinks this way or that way. But now the Colts are a tangled mess, and they're just this mass of seaweed that has washed ashore and at high tide, and just kind of sitting there, and that's it. Now, Richardson absolutely deserved to be benched. We agree with the move. The assumption was that Joe Flacco would have the magic that he had in Cleveland last year, and it turns out that he left that in Ohio. He did not bring that to the next state over there in Indiana, did not do that. But Richardson sucked at a time you cannot suck. In fact, he was playing as bad as any quarterback in several statistics that we have seen since the late 70s, early 80s. Horrific. Completing less than 50% of his passes. Just bad feel for the game all over the place. But Joe Flacco stepped in, and it looked like he should be playing bingo somewhere, that Flacco should be out, or shuffleboard, or I think bingo at a neighborhood church on a Friday or Tuesday or a Wednesday. I mean, something like that. Let's go play bingo. So now it's back to the drawing board, and wherever the seaweed takes us, if Richardson goes out and plays the way he did before, I wouldn't be shocked if they go the other direction. Of course, the deep state conspiracy is that what happened in Indianapolis is Richardson was he was punished. He was taken off the field for a couple weeks because he took himself out of the game, and now punishment is over, and so he's going back in. Now, final word here, the last word. We go now to Miami. The Dolphins feeling pretty good about themselves. Why not? They won their little game against the Rams, who decided to take Monday night off. Well, Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel, the hipster head coach of the Dolphins, says he is not concerned about a former player, one of his former guys, comments about the lack of mental toughness in the Dolphin locker room, appearing on some podcast. Everyone's got a podcast. Who the hell cares? Steelers safety Deshawn Elliott, a former Dolphin, he claims he's looking forward to playing the Ravens. Okay, well, why? That's a big game. Right? Game's got some juice. Good weekend matchups here. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo. It's a good weekend for NFL action. The drama. But Deshaun Elliott talked about that matchup with the Ravens. He's looking forward to it, he says, because he said the team he played on last year, the Dolphins, was soft as F. Now, I assume that's not fun. I assume the F word he used there is not fun. It's a four-letter word. Probably not fun. Fanatical? I don't think it's fanatical. I don't think it's that. So that's more than four words. All right, so Coach Mike McDaniel choosing to ignore, I don't hear you, choosing to ignore one of his former players, calling the Dolphins, the team he coaches, soft. So which side of the aisle do you fall on this one? So I stand with the former disgruntled player, Deshaun Elliott. From the outside, all we have are on the outside looking in. But on the outside looking in, this is a tune from the Gap Band back in the day. You dropped a truth bomb on me is what you did. That's a truth bomb. It is from this guy, Elliott. The point of demarcation, after examining the situation, the point of demarcation in the NFL often is work ethic, toughness. That is a fundamental pillar of what separates the good and the bad. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't work hard, it doesn't matter. And that's really true not just in football. It's true in life. If you're lazy, life's going to be harder. You're not going to be good at your job. And that's how it works in sports, too, and the NFL in particular. Can you successfully deal with adversity, right? The frustration, the stress, failure. And the Dolphins under Mike McDaniel, for all the razzmatazz and all the big offensive numbers they put up back in the past, hasn't been that team. They have not been that team there. The Dolphins under Mike McDaniel, it's a small sample size, relatively speaking, but they've mostly failed. The weather's a little chilly. They don't play well. Oh, they need some earmuffs. It's a little cold. Big game, often a letdown situation. And so is that a reflection on the coach, or is that a reflection on both the coach and the players? So you can determine that yourself. It is the